The stars were dying. The once vibrant galaxy, full of bustling civilizations and endless wonders, had become a place of shadows and fear. Countless wars had scarred the planets, and entire empires had fallen into dust. Humanity, once proud and powerful, was now a fragile flame flickering on the edge of extinction. In the heart of the Galactic Council's chamber, voices rose and fell like thunder. Leaders from the remaining worlds argued fiercely. Their hope was running out. Their enemies were closing in from all sides. The council was desperate for help, but who could answer the call? Far away, in a hidden corner of the galaxy, a small signal blinked quietly in the vast darkness. It was an old message, ancient and forgotten, buried beneath years of silence. It was a call for heroes from Earth, the lost cradle of humanity. The message crackled through old comm channels. Its words simple but powerful. The galaxy needs saviors. The time has come to awaken. At the same moment, on a dusty, worn-out space station orbiting a dying star, a group of survivors gathered around a flickering holoscreen. They were the last humans left in this part of the galaxy: fighters, scientists, and refugees. They listened in stunned silence as the message played again and again. Among them stood Kane Ward, a man with sharp eyes and a heart full of fire. Kane had seen too much loss, too much destruction. But this message stirred something deep inside him: hope. Not blind hope, but the hard kind earned through pain and struggle. "We can't ignore it," Kane said quietly. "If this is our chance, we have to take it." Mara Chen, a fierce warrior with a history no one dared to ask about, nodded. "They want legends. Maybe it's time we become them." Jacques, a grizzled pilot with a permanent scar across his face, cracked a rare smile. "I say we give them a show they won't forget." But not everyone was convinced. Some whispered that the call was a trap, that ancient enemies might be watching, waiting to destroy any who dared answer. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and desperation often led to disaster. Still, the group knew one thing: staying hidden would only guarantee their end. If they waited, the darkness would swallow them all. The decision was made. They would answer the call. Within hours, Kane and his team boarded the Starfire, an old but fast ship built for one last fight. The engines hummed as they rose from the station, piercing the thick clouds of the dying star below. The galaxy spread out before them, a canvas of stars, mysteries, and threats. But the peace did not last. Before they even left their sector, the Starfire's sensors picked up a blip, something fast, silent, and deadly closing in on them. Kane's hand tightened on the console. "Contact," he said. "Enemy ships, not far behind." Mara activated the ship's defense systems. "They're coming in hot. Prepare for battle." The team scrambled to their positions. As the hum of the ship grew louder. Outside, the blackness was suddenly pierced by bright streaks of light laser fire, cutting through space like angry lightning. The attackers were swift and ruthless, their ships shaped like sharp claws, ready to tear through flesh and metal alike. They moved with deadly precision, cutting off the Starfire's escape routes. Kane's voice was calm but firm. "We didn't come this far to die without a fight. Hold your positions." The battle raged for what felt like hours. Explosions rocked the ship, warning lights flashing everywhere. Mara fired her cannon, blasting enemy fighters out of the sky. Jacques maneuvered through the chaos, dodging blasts and debris. But then, the Starfire was hit hard. The engines faltered. Alarms blared. "We're losing power," Jacques shouted. The ship shook violently as enemy fighters closed in. Kane's eyes narrowed, braced for impact. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the side of the ship. The lights went out. Silence fell. When the emergency lights flickered back on, the crew found themselves drifting. The attackers were gone. Mara checked the damage. "We barely made it. They wanted us dead." "Why? Who are they?" Before anyone could answer, the ship's communications crackled. A voice, calm but filled with power, echoed through the speakers. "This is the Galactic Council. The call you answered is not just for saviors, but for warriors. The enemy you face is unlike any before. They come from the dark edges of the galaxy, ancient, merciless, and hungry for destruction. You are our last hope. The crew exchanged grim looks. Kane stood, his voice steady. Then we fight for the galaxy. Mara gripped her weapon tightly. No turning back now. Jock smirked. I like the sound of that. Message ended, but its weight remained. They were not just answering a call. They were stepping into a war that would change everything. As the Starfire limped away from the dying star, the Dark Watchers in the shadows smiled. The last hope had begun its journey, but the real battle was only starting. The Starfire drifted through the cold void of space, its engines weak but steady. Inside, the team worked hard to repair the damage from the sudden attack. Kane Ward stood by the control panel, staring out at the dark stars. The galaxy felt colder now, heavier. The threat was closer than they thought. Mara sat quietly, cleaning her weapon with careful hands. Who were those attackers? She asked. They moved like shadows, fast and deadly. I've never seen ships like those before. Jock shook his head. Not from any known enemy. Something new or something hidden. The crew grew uneasy. The enemy was no longer the familiar alien empires that had fought humanity for centuries. This was something different, darker. Echo, the youngest member of the team, looked out the window silently. He was quiet since the battle, his eyes filled with questions he couldn't speak aloud. Ira, the ship's scientist, joined Kane at the console. I've been analyzing the attack data, she said. The weapons used are unlike anything in the known galaxy. The energy signatures, they're corrupted. Something is twisting the very fabric of their technology. Kane frowned. Corrupted. By what? Ira shook her head. I don't know. But it's clear now this enemy is not just after control. They want to destroy, to burn everything. The team knew they had to find out more. Their mission was simple but deadly. Discover who was behind the attack and stop them before the galaxy fell to ruin. They set a course for the closest planet. With information, Dravis Prime, a once great world now broken and silent. The planet held ancient archives rumored to contain secrets. It's about old wars and forgotten enemies. As the Starfire entered the atmosphere of Dravis's Prime, the team saw ruins stretched across the land. Cities lay in ash, forests were gone, and the sky was thick with dust. The planet was a graveyard of a forgotten past. Kane led the landing party down to the surface. The air was heavy and cold. Silence swallowed them like a living thing. Inside the ruins of an old library, Era scanned the broken machines, trying to recover any data left behind. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A shadow moved in the corner. The team raised their weapons. Out stepped a figure, a woman dressed in tattered robes, her eyes sharp and filled with sorrow. I've waited for you, she said. You seek answers. But be warned, the truth is darker than you imagine. Kane stepped forward. Who are you? My name is Lyra. I was once a guardian of this world. Now, I am one of the last. She told them stories of a war long before theirs, a war where pride and anger created a power called the Wrath, the force born from humanity's deepest fears and hatred. This wrath corrupted everything it touched, turning heroes into monsters and allies into enemies. It was sealed away, Lyra said, hidden beneath this planet, but it has begun to rise again. The team felt the weight of her words. Echo asked quietly, could the Wrath be behind the attacks? Lyra nodded slowly. Yes. The creatures you fought were not aliens. They were humans twisted by the Wrath, forced into weapons of war. Kane clenched his fists. Then we're fighting ourselves. The idea chilled them all. The enemy was no longer something outside. They were battling the worst parts of humanity itself. Suddenly, the ground trembled. The walls cracked. From deep underground, a low growl rose, a warning or a challenge. Lyra warned, the Wrath stirs. We must leave before it finds us. But the team knew they could not run. They had come too far. As they rushed back to the ship, shadows moved around them, twisted figures with glowing eyes, lost souls consumed by the Wrath. The battle was brutal. Mara fought fiercely, her every shot burning with determination. Jax flew overhead in a small fighter drone, giving cover fire. Echo found himself face to face with one of the corrupted creatures, once a friend, now a monster. His heart ached, but he fired without hesitation. Back on the Starfire, Kane gave orders. "Get us out of here. Now." The ship shook as the wrath creatures clawed at the hull. Just as they took off, a massive explosion rocked the planet, sending debris and dust into space from the safety of the ship. Kane looked back at the ruined world. "We have awakened something terrible," he said, "and it will not stop." Lyra's words echoed in their minds. Only unity and forgiveness can calm the wrath. Otherwise, it will consume us all. Kane turned to his team. "We must find a way to control it, or destroy it." The galaxy was darker now, full of shadows and dangers no one understood. But one thing was clear: they were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for the soul of humanity. The Starfire raced through the silent space, leaving Dravis's prime behind. The team was tired, but their minds burned with questions. What was this wrath? How could it turn humans into monsters? And could it be stopped? Era worked non-stop in the ship's lab, her fingers moving quickly over ancient data recovered from Dravis Prime. The screens glowed with strange symbols and energy patterns. "We need to understand this force if we want to survive," she said. Kane leaned over her shoulder, eyes sharp. "Tell me what you found," Era sighed. "The wrath is not just anger or hate. It's a powerful energy born from human fear, rage, and pride. It was sealed inside a device long ago, a weapon, meant to keep it locked away forever." Mara frowned. "A weapon to hold back a weapon. That sounds dangerous." "It was supposed to be," Era agreed. "But it seems something happened. The seal is breaking." Suddenly the ship trembled, the lights flickered, an alarm blared. "Warning!" Era shouted. "The wrath energy is leaking. It's inside the ship." The crew rushed to the control room, where strange energy crackled in the air like wild lightning. The wrath was not only on Dravis Prime, it was inside the Starfire now. Echo's eyes widened. "It's trying to control us." Mara tightened her grip on her weapon. "Have to fight it." The wrath's power surged through the ship's corridors, reaching into the minds of the crew. One by one, some began to change. Their eyes darkened. Their movements became aggressive and unnatural. Kane's heart pounded. "Stay strong! Fight it with everything you have!" But the wrath was relentless. It fed on anger and fear, growing stronger with every heartbeat. Jax was the first to fall. His scarred face twisted with rage as he turned on the others. "Jax, no!" Kane yelled, but it was too late. The team fought desperately, trying to reach their friend inside the wrath's grip. But the power was too strong. One by one, the crew began to lose control. Chaos filled the ship. Amidst the battle, Echo felt something inside him stir something different. The wrath tried to consume him, but he held back. Instead, he reached for the memories of his past, of kindness, hope, and love. He focused on those feelings like a shield. "It's inside me," Echo thought, "but I won't let it win." Echo ran through the corridors, searching for Kane and the others. He found Mara locked in a fierce fight with a wrath-controlled soldier. Echo fired his weapon, breaking the soldier's hold and saving her. "Thank you," she gasped. "We have to stop this." Kane regrouped with Echo and Mara. "We need a plan. This wrath can't destroy us from within," Mara joined them, holding a small device pulsing with light. "This is the weapon that sealed the wrath," she explained. "If we can recharge it and use it again, maybe we can trap the energy." Kane nodded. "Then we risk everything on one chance." The team set off for the engine room, where the device was stored. But the wrath was waiting. A terrifying creature emerged from the shadows, a soldier once human, now twisted beyond recognition. Its eyes burned red with wrath energy. "It's guarding the device," Mara said. "We have to fight through." The battle was fierce and brutal. The creature was faster and stronger than anything they had faced. Echo led the attack, using everything he had learned to dodge and strike. Finally, the desperate move, they defeated the Guardian and reached the device. Era worked quickly. Reconnecting wires and pushing energy through the core, the ship shuddered as the Wrath's power began to pull toward the device. Suddenly, a surge of energy exploded from the device, flooding the ship with bright light. The Wrath's hold weakened. Kane felt the strength return to his body, but then the device began to overload. Era shouted, "It can't hold much longer." Kane made a choice. Get everyone to safety. I'll finish this. With trembling hands, he pushed the final sequence to activate the device's power. A beam of pure energy shot into the darkness of the ship. The Wrath screamed, a sound of pain and rage. For a moment, everything was still. Then silence. Kane collapsed. To the floor, exhausted but alive, the Wrath was contained. For now, but at what cost? The ship was damaged, the crew shaken, some were lost to the Wrath's corruption, others forever changed. Echo knelt beside Kane. You saved us. Kane looked at the young man, hope shining in his tired eyes. Ain't. Saved each other? Outside, the stars waited silent witnesses to a war far from over. The Starfire floated through the silent void, its systems barely holding together after the battle with the Wrath's energy. The crew was exhausted, their bodies and minds pushed to the limit. The air inside the ship was thick with tension and unanswered questions. The victory they had, one felt fragile, like a flickering flame struggling to stay alive in a storm. Kane Ward moved slowly through the dim corridors, checking on each member of the crew. Some were hurt, others confused, but all carried a heavy burden. The Wrath's touch was not easily forgotten. It had left scars deeper than any wound. Mara was seated near the medbay, her face pale but determined. We won't be whole again until we face what's coming, she said quietly. Kane nodded. We've seen what the Wrath can do. It breaks people, turns friends into enemies. Suddenly, an alert sounded sharply from the ship's console. Echo's voice echoed through the speakers. Captain, sensors are picking up movement, multiple contacts, fast approaching. Kane's heart sank. Where? Near the outer. Hull Echo replied. It's the corrupted ones. They're coming for us. The Wrath was not finished. Within minutes, shadowy figures appeared outside the ship, humans twisted and controlled by the Wrath's dark power. They moved like a single force, ruthless and relentless. The crew prepared to defend the Starfire. Mara readied her weapons. Kane gave orders calmly but firmly. We hold our ground. No one lets them breach the ship. But amidst the chaos, a sudden crash shook the hull. One of the Wrath-controlled soldiers had broken through the defenses and was moving through the corridors. Kane and Mara rushed to confront it. The creature was fast and savage, but Kane's experience and Mara's skill worked together. They cornered the soldier, who hesitated for a moment then, with a shocking sound. It let out a cry of pain and recognition. It was Jox. Jox's face was twisted with anger and confusion. But there was a flicker of something else, faint and human. Kane's voice softened. Jox, it's us. You're still in there. Fight it. Jox growled, struggling with the Wrath's control. Can I stop it? Mara stepped closer. We have to try, for all of us. In that moment, the ship trembled again. More corrupted soldiers appeared, spreading through the halls like a dark tide. The crew fought bravely, but the enemy was overwhelming. Kane made a quick decision. Need to get to the escape pods. If we can't save the ship, we save ourselves. As they moved through the ship, Jox stayed close, fighting. The Wrath inside him. Each step was a battle, but he refused to give in. Outside the Starfire, the Wrath-controlled army swarmed, ready to tear the ship apart. Inside, the team found a hidden chamber, a forgotten room filled with ancient symbols and strange machines. Era's eyes lit up as she examined the walls. This is a sanctuary, she said. An ancient place created to protect the pure from the Wrath. Suddenly, a hologram flickered to life, showing an old man with kind eyes. He spoke slowly. Only through unity and forgiveness can the Wrath be calmed. Hatred feeds it. Love can bind it. Kane looked at his team. We must put aside everything that divides us. Our only chance is to stand together. Jock, struggling against his dark side, nodded. If I fall, don't give up on me. The team prepared for their final stand. Outside, the corrupted army broke through the ship's defenses. The halls filled with shadows and anger, but inside the sanctuary, the team found a strange peace. They began to share stories of their pasts, their regrets, and their hopes. The air around them changed. The Wrath's power seemed to falter. Cain realized that the old man's words were true. To fight the Wrath, they had to heal the broken bonds between them. But time was running out. A massive explosion rocked the ship, tearing through the sanctuary's walls. The corrupted army was coming. Cain stood tall, determination burning in his eyes. We fight, not just for survival, but for each other. The team prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of their souls and the galaxy itself. The starfire shook violently as explosions rocked the ship. The corrupted army poured through the shattered walls, filling the halls with darkness and rage. Cain Ward stood at the center of the sanctuary, surrounded by his team, each member ready to face whatever came next. The ancient room, once a place of peace, was now a battleground. Mara's eyes flashed with fire as she fired at the advancing enemies. Hold them back. We can't let them reach the core. Deco moved swiftly, his heart pounding. He had faced horrors before, but this battle was different. The Wrath was not just a force outside, it was inside, twisting minds and breaking wills. Jox, still struggling against the Wrath inside him, fought beside them. His movements were sharp, but full of inner pain. Each attack was a battle between the man he was and the monster he was becoming. Cain, Sarah shouted. The device, if we can reactivate it here, it might seal the Wrath for good. Cain nodded. Do it. We'll protect you. Formed a circle around Arare as she worked on the ancient machine, her fingers trembling but steady. Sparks flew, and strange energy hummed through the air. Outside, corrupted soldiers pressed closer. Suddenly, a massive figure burst into the room, a towering beast, larger and more terrifying than the rest. Its eyes burned with red fire, and its roar shook the very walls. The team froze for a moment, then sprang into action. Mara fired repeatedly, but the beast barely flinched. Cain stepped forward, weapon ready. This ends now, he growled. The fight was brutal. The beast slammed through walls and shattered equipment. Cain dodged a swipe and struck its leg. The creature roared, enraged. Echo saw an opening. Now Cain fired, hitting the beast's chest. The creature staggered, but the Wrath's energy inside it was too strong. Era's device suddenly sparked violently. I need more time, Jox roared, rushing the beast and slamming it against the wall. For a moment the monster faltered, but then the beast grabbed Jox, lifting him off the ground. Jox, shh, Mara screamed. Cain rushed forward, firing. The beast dropped Jox, who collapsed, gasping. No, Cain shouted, holding his friend. The beast turned toward them, eyes burning brighter than ever. Ara's device pulsed. Almost ready. With a final burst of energy, the device released a wave of light. The Wrath's power screamed, trying to resist. The beast howled and began to shrink, its terrifying form melting away until only a man remained, broken, weak. But Free.Jax lay on the floor, breathing hard but alive. The corrupted soldiers stopped and looked around, their glowing eyes dimming. One by one they collapsed, freed from the Wrath's control. The room was silent. Cain helped Jox up. You're safe. Jox nodded weakly. Thanks to you all. Era smiled tiredly. The device worked. The Wrath is sealed for now, but Cain knew better. This is just the beginning, he said. The Wrath will rise again if we don't find its source and end it once and for all. The team looked at each other, knowing their fight was far from over. They were the last hope, not just for themselves, but for the whole galaxy. The starfire limped through space, the damage from the battle still fresh. The crew moved quietly, each lost in thought. The Wrath had been sealed for now, but the true enemy was still out there. Waiting, Cain Ward stood on the bridge staring. At the distant stars, somewhere beyond those lights lay the source of the Wrath, a dark secret hidden deep within the galaxy. He knew their mission was far from over. "We need answers," Kane said to Herrera, who was beside him. "Where do we go from here?" Herrera studied the data on her tablet. "There's a place, the Abyss, a forgotten system at the edge of the galaxy. Legends say it's where the Wrath began." Mara frowned. "Abyss. Sounds like trouble."
Right.
"Is," Kane replied. "But if we want to stop this, we have no choice." Echo joined them, eyes sharp despite exhaustion. "What do we know about the Abyss?" "Very little," Ares said. "It's uncharted. Old stories speak of an ancient weapon there, tied to the Wrath's power." Kane clenched his fists. "Then that's where we're headed." The journey to the Abyss was long and dangerous. The Starfire's engines groaned as they pushed through the darkness. The crew prepared for whatever awaited them as they neared the system. Strange readings appeared on the sensor's energy spikes unlike anything before. Suddenly, a shadow passed. In front of the ship, a massive shape, moving silently. "Contact," Echo shouted. The ship's alarms blared. Unknown ships emerged from the shadows, sleek, black, and deadly. "Ambush," Kane said. "Prepare to fight." The Starfire rocked as weapons fired. The enemy ships moved with perfect coordination, their attacks precise and relentless. Mara fired back, her voice steady. "We can't outrun them." Kane's mind raced. "We have to outsmart them." Using the ship's damaged systems, Kane ordered a risky move-a-dive into a nearby asteroid field. The enemy hesitated, unsure if they could follow. The Starfire weaved between massive rocks, dodging blasts and scraping its hull on stone. Inside, crew held their breath, every moment a test of skill and courage. Finally, the enemy ships broke off the chase. Kane exhaled slowly. "That was too close, Era." Checked the systems. "Damage is worse than we thought. We'll need to land soon for repairs." Echo looked out the window at the strange, dark planets of the Abyss system. "This place feels wrong," he said quietly, as the Starfire descended to a barren moon. The team prepared to explore. On the surface, the world was bleak, rocky plains, strange glowing crystals, and an eerie silence that pressed on their minds. Era led the team toward a massive structure half buried in stone. "It's ancient," she whispered, "and it holds the answers." Inside, the walls were covered with symbols and images of war and destruction. The Wrath story unfolded before them, a tale of betrayal, power, and a weapon so dangerous it nearly destroyed everything. Suddenly, a hidden door slid open, revealing a dark chamber. Era stepped forward. Scanning the room in the center lay a device, a glowing orb pulsing with energy. "This must be the source," she said. As they approached, the orb's light flickered, casting shadows that danced on the walls. Kane felt a chill. "Be careful. His power is dangerous." Echo reached out, touching the orb. Images flooded his mind, visions of war, pain, and endless night. He staggered back. Gasping, "The Wrath started here," he said. "But it's not just energy. It's alive." Suddenly, the orb flared brightly. The chamber shook from the darkness. A voice echoed, cold, ancient, and filled with hate. "You have come far, but you will not leave." The team braced themselves. The battle for the galaxy's soul was about to reach its darkest hour. The voice in the chamber echoed through the hollow walls, cold and filled with ancient hate. Kane and the crew stood frozen for a moment, the weight of what they had uncovered settling heavy on their shoulders. "This place, it's alive," Kane whispered. "It's not just the orb, the whole chamber, the entire Abyss." Era nodded, her eyes scanning the glowing symbols on the walls. "This is a prison and a prison keeper all at once. The Wrath isn't just energy. It's a being trapped here for centuries." Mara's hand tightened around her weapon. "Then it wants out." The orb pulsed again, brighter this time, sending waves of energy rippling across the room. The walls seemed to breathe, and the shadows grew longer and darker. Echo stepped forward, determined. "If we don't stop it now, it will spread again, more powerful than ever." Suddenly, the floor beneath them trembled. Cracks formed along the stone, glowing with an eerie red light. The chamber was breaking apart. "Get ready," Kane shouted. "We don't have much time." From the cracks, dark tendrils of energy burst forth, twisting and writhing like living shadows. They reached for the team, seeking to bind and control. Mara fired her weapon, but the tendrils moved faster, weaving through her blasts. Echo dodged, grabbing Kane's arm. "We need to destroy the orb." Ira hurried to the device, her hand shaking as she examined it. "It's a core, a source of endless wrath energy. If we can shut it down, maybe we can end this." But the orb was protected by an energy shield, glowing fierce and unbreakable. Kane scanned the chamber, looking for a weakness. His eyes landed on an ancient mechanism built into the wall, a set of levers and buttons covered in symbols matching those on the orb. "That," he said, pointing. "If we can disable the shield from there, Ira can shut the orb down." Echo and Kane split up, each taking a different path through the crumbling chamber. Dodging tendrils and falling debris, Echo's heart pounded as he fought off the shadows reaching for him. He remembered the stories of hope and courage told back on the Starfire. Those memories fueled him like a shield. Mara used her agility and skill, weaving through attacks and blasting shadows with precise shots. Kane, ever steady, moved calmly, but swiftly, his focus sharp on the ancient mechanism. Finally, Kane reached the wall controls. The levers resisted his touch, heavy and old, but he pushed harder. With a loud click, the energy shield flickered, then failed. Era shouted from across the chamber, "Now, Kane. Hurry!" The orb began to pulse wildly as Arera worked, her fingers dancing across the device. Sparks flew, and the shadows screamed in fury. The chamber shook violently as the wrath tried to hold its grip. Suddenly, the orb cracked, releasing a blinding light that filled the room. The tendrils writhed, then dissolved into nothingness. The chamber grew still. The oppressive darkness lifted. Kane, Mara, Echo, and Arera regrouped, breathing hard but victorious. But Kane knew this was only the start. The wrath had been trapped here for centuries, who had created this prison. And why had the wrath been allowed to spread in the first place? Echo looked at the broken orb. "We've stopped it here, but the scars will remain." Mara nodded. "And there will always be others who want to use this power." Ira sighed, looking at the ancient symbols fading. "On the walls, we must find out who started this war and make sure it ends for good." Kane turned to his team. "We're the only ones who can stop it. We are the galaxy's last hope." The stars outside shone bright and cold, watching silently as the crew prepared for the battles ahead. The Starfire left the abyss behind, its engines humming quietly in the vast emptiness of space. The crew was weary but stronger. Their fight against the wrath had reached a critical turning point. The ancient prison was broken, but its secrets now weighed heavily on their minds. Kane Ward stood on the bridge, staring into the stars. The battle had tested them all, but the real war was far from over. "We stopped the wrath here," Kane said softly, "but it didn't begin with the orb. Someone, somewhere, started this. If we want peace, we have to find them." Era nodded. "There are clues in the symbols we found, hints about an ancient civilization. They may hold the key." Mara looked out the viewport, her face set with determination. "Then we follow those clues, no matter where they lead." Echo approached, his usual quiet confidence returning. "We've seen what happens when fear and anger grow unchecked. We have to protect hope for all of humanity." Kane smiled faintly. "We will, because we're not just fighting to survive. We're fighting to build a future." As the crew prepared for their next journey, a new sense of purpose filled the Starfire. Scars of war would not define them. Instead, their courage and unity would light the way. In the deep silence of space, a signal crackled through the ship's comm system. It was faint but clear, a call for help from the edge of the galaxy. Kane's eyes narrowed. This might be our next challenge. Mara loaded her weapon. "Then let's answer the call." Ara adjusted the navigation systems. Plotting a course toward the unknown, Echo stood beside Kane, ready for whatever lay ahead. Together, they faced the stars, A small team with a big mission: to protect the galaxy from darkness, and to prove that even in the darkest times, humanity's light could never be extinguished. The Starfire jumped into hyperspace, leaving behind the shadows of the abyss and moving toward a new dawn.